Oh, Tiny Tina.
Fuck, I made mistakes.
Previously on Basement Discourse, we talked about shit each other should get into, like Castlevania and Kingdom Hearts. Welcome, basement dwellers. I did not try to impersonate Justin, as I can see he got excited for.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work very well. I can't go that low. It just can't be done. That'd be pretty much what it sounds like. You're here with me, Brady, your Otaku. We got Jace, your gamer, and we got Justin, our D&D tabletop dude, down there in a sweater as usual on the bottom.
Of course.
Follow us on all socials, but most importantly, please subscribe, because we look at the analytics and we know that we're almost 50-50. You guys are watching it and half of you aren't subscribed, so please do that at the very least.
Yeah,
but we reply to
I'm looking
all
at
comments,
least
so
5 of you right now. I can see you right
That
there.
guy.
You,
The one in
and
the
you.
shirt over there.
yeah,
Get him.
you.
Yeah, and the one without a shirt
yeah.
and no pants and no underwear, put some underwear on.
As it turns out,
And
we've all been
send
watching
subscribe.
some 2D sexiness, and I want to hear about Jace's experience with it.
Oh, mate. I've got some experience with 2D sexiness.
Insert pixelated Jace now.
Thanks, Brady. I really appreciate that live edit. So you will soon find out about a special that we're working on. And I believe in that special, there was a recommendation for me to watch anime that may have
It'll
been
be
cut
out.
Okay. Well, you've all seen that special and you know the recommendation because I don't think I cut it. But whatever. High School of the Dead. I was told to watch, or no one told me to watch it, but someone mentioned that someone shot a sniper rifle off a pair of tits. I'm like, that's hilarious. I'm watching that. And
It's funny once.
that's where I got into it, right? And I have mixed feelings about this because some of the action set pieces are fucking brilliant. Like there is some really cool fight scenes, some really cool like motorbike scenes and stuff like that. But there's so much cringe. Like one of the opening sequences that you'll see is a girl gets pushed against a wall by a zombie, right? Cool. Except that they choose, when she hits the wall, upskirt. It's like, was that the angle that you really needed to do? And they do this a lot. And like, not like it's just a little subtle nod like you might see in your Bleachers and your Dragon Ball Zs and stuff, where there's just a little bit of, a little squirt of sexy. It's like,
Squirt of sexy.
Yeah, man. I'll send you a video to explain that. But it's not this small amount like you see in other animes. It's very in your face. And a lot of it is by questionable, like contains questionably legal people. And that makes it kind of uncomfortable. And then it makes the rest of the show, which is actually kind of good, feel a bit weird.
Yeah.
And so as much as the show's quite good, it feels like half the writing and animating team are 15-year-olds who just haven't had a wank in a while. And like, I was actually having a shower before, and yes, I was having a shower thinking about anime. But I thought to myself, right, I'm like, if the roles were reversed, how fucking awkward would that scene be? You see a dude get pushed against the fence and you just see his fucking tackle flailing in his hands. Like, what? Like, I wouldn't, even if I was gay, that does not sound appealing to me.
No, I think it'd be awkward even still.
Yeah, and it just takes away because there is some really cool stuff. And like the concept of who to save and who not to save in a zombie apocalypse and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of morality in there that's kind of interesting. And then there's weird, sexy stuff.
It is also a like an ecchi harem.
Yeah, but I don't know what any of that means. I just wanted to see a guy shoot a sniper rifle off a pair of tits. But I wanted it to be context relevant, like,
and not awkward.
The actual sequence sort of makes sense because she's been thrown from a jeep and she's like half unconscious, and the rifle's like strapped to her chest as a stabilizer. So you'd have to full on clip her whole fucking torso to get it off. So that sort of makes sense. But they do like slow motion shots where you see her just go rob, rob, rob. It's like,
yeah. So I'll do a ramen stand explaining ecchi. It's not quite. It's not like Game of Thrones sexy where people are just banging all the time, but it's just where they throw unnecessary sexual things in there. That's like the very short version of it.
And that's probably the key bit that makes it weird. Like there's a sexual assault scene in it that sort of feels okay because that's relevant to the story.
Yeah, it's story building. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I'm not condoning sexual assault, but zombie apocalypse, desperation, people doing terrible things. That sort of seemed relevant to develop the plot, but there's so much stuff that isn't, and it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
And I've got to pass it on to Justin because I know that man's been watching some weird shit too.
Yeah, you guys way back
can just
talked
say
about
that
Goblin Slayer.
anytime.
Well, yeah, this is true. I do watch some weird shit, but this one was Goblin Slayer. You guys have talked about it in the past. I think I mentioned that I did watch a little bit of it, but I watched a bit more just to see if it actually got any different or better. So Goblin Slayer, just about a guy who slays goblins. He's got a bit of a dark past, apparently. Doesn't really allude to much
Synopsis
from what
by
I've watched. Yeah.
So
10 out of
just a
10.
guy who
I'd put that on
slays
the
goblins.
Literally, that is how you could describe this show, and you would be describing it pretty well, because really that's all he does. And like they build up this tavern scene and stuff.
Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
He's not a guy and he slays demons.
It sort of reminds me of Konosuba with like the tavern and picking up quests and stuff from a tavern and stuff like that. So there is a main tavern area. And
like
exactly. Though. Like it's kind of that vibe. And then they just like sort of show that he's not picking up any other quests except for goblin slaying quests, even though he's like a higher level guy. He only slays goblins, so that's all he does. So a chick tags along with him after losing a whole party inside of a dungeon and watching someone get violated by goblins, sort of. They don't show a lot, but it's enough to know that someone definitely got violated.
It's more than enough. Like it was pretty bad because it's like
bent over and stuff.
8 minutes into this like well-lit, light-looking fantasy show.
Yeah.
It's just like Terran clothes off and shadows of like the camera only pans away at the very last second. Like
there's like, enough to know.
Graphically, it's like just before penetration, pretty well.
Pretty much.
So it's like like R-rated stuff sort of thing. Like
for sure, but they don't let you know that. It doesn't let you know. The way they set it up is like you are not prepared, and it copped a lot of flack for it in the world because people didn't know that was about to occur.
Yeah, and then after that though, like I was like, okay, so they screwed that scene up. Sure, maybe it gets better. Like maybe they build up from this. But it's literally just about Goblin Slayer slaying goblins, and that's it. Like there's no depth to it. He's walking along and he's like, his one-liners are great. They're like Arnie one-liners and stuff. Like I'll have to find a few during the break, and I'll bring it up after the break.
Brady will edit them in here.
Yep.
No way. He will not.
Or he's just like talking about goblins. Well, goblin. Only good goblin is a dead goblin. And like that's it. Like, and she's like, "Oh, okay."
It's just
like, why do you only
Goblin D's nuts?
Nice,
nice. Like, why do you only take goblin quests? Because I only want to kill goblins. Goblins are the ultimate evil. And just like that's all he talks about is just hating on goblins the entire time. And it's just like, all right, cool, that's fine. But when do we get to anything else? And then it's just like the same shit.
High School of the Dead, but you take out the slivers of interesting stuff that's kept me going through that show.
Yeah, it was very dull.
If One Punch Man wasn't a funny comedy based on the idea that he kills people in a punch, and that's why it's funny.
Yeah,
if that was a serious show,
if
that was
if they made it serious and it was just him going along and punching someone, like that'd be it. Like it's just, all right, cool, all right, we'll do that again. And like, I don't know, they're building some character up, but it's just not worth it.
Yeah, they thought the mystery of like why he's so hellbent would be enough to draw you in, but it's just not.
You just don't care. Like, sure, like because the first thing you see is probably one of the worst things that goblins could do. So anything he's gone through is probably only just a little bit worse than that. So it's like, well, I don't care enough.
Yep, he was sexually assaulted by goblins.
More than likely, but it's like, well, I've already seen it now. It's already happened. So what's worse than that? Like,
yeah, like why wouldn't you maybe like intro it, like, or maybe like intro him as a character and show his animosity towards goblins, and then use that to be like, and now we show his past where, you know,
his dark
85
past.
goblins sexually assaulted his grandmother or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a
just
weird show for that.
It is bizarre. I don't think
it just sounds like bad writing to me.
It's terrible writing. That's what it is. Like, it's a fine idea, and it's just really poorly executed. So yeah, there you go. Don't waste your time on Goblin Slayer. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
So for anime world context on that one, I think basically what happened here is Sword Art, I think, like the whole isekai genre, also influenced the whole fantasy
fucking
anime
isekai
genre. I'm not going to do it. It's fine. But they also influenced like the anime fantasy genre, and especially like gaming based ones, right? So there was this fucking massive boom where they were just picking up every IP they could and adapting it. So like Log Horizon, there's just like I'd have to put a list here of just like all of these ones that are like
here.
Fantasy animes that have like a gaming type influence, like Justin was saying, with like guild halls and quests and all that sort of shit. And Goblin Slayer got picked up because it was a light novel conversion. They thought it would do what Sword Art did, and it just no. But in terms of sexy ass animes, while we're on the topic, I picked up A Slice of Life. That's sexy as fuck. And you should definitely watch it because I'll say this, I'll put it out there, real men fucking cry. I just about was crying last night watching like the 4th episode of this show, of a 12 episode slice of life. Like, it hits hard, the characters are good. I'll stop the mystery build now. It's I started watching My Dress Up Darling.
Oh yeah, I've got that primed to watch. That'll probably
so it's real world. There's no magic, there's nothing like that, which is not usually my jam too much with anime. But it's so essentially a cosplaying girl, but she's really self-confident, really believes in, like, you know, you should just be yourself. And then there's this dude who they don't make it slow, like they give you his trauma pretty quickly. And you feel a lot for him. So like, he essentially is from his granddad creates these traditional Japanese dolls, and he grew up like that, and he started making them because he thought they were beautiful. And then like they're like 8 or some shit, and some chick makes fun of him for it. So he just like shuts off from the world, and he's like, seen as though this is my hobby. And I think what this anime does is it hits to like the geeks, especially weebs, who do like, anime is now a bit more mainstream, but when I was like growing up, and when like you guys as well, if you liked anime, like you were weird. Even today, it still has a stigma in Australia.
Pokemon or DBZ, everyone.
Yeah. It's getting better. And look, sometimes it deserves that, but when after the last 2 shows, but it hits it, like, it gives you that relative feeling, right? He's got this thing he's somewhat embarrassed on. He's got a traumatic moment in his past, so he just shuts off from everyone to the point where, like, it's crazy. In the first episode, he's cleaning up the classroom after the end of a school day, which is like a Japanese thing. But he does it every day because people just dump it on him because they're like, oh, he's so shut in, and like, if we ask him to, he'll just say yes. And he does it so he doesn't have to go socialize or be asked to do anything after school. Because he's just like, I have nothing of value to add. No one likes my hobby. I know this because of this one moment when I was growing up. But because he makes these dolls, he's incredible at sewing. And one day he breaks the shit at home, so he has to do it at school. The girl walks in, finds it, and she's like, oh my God. And so begins the show, basically. He makes cosplays for her. But
makes sense.
The characters have immense amounts of depth, and I'm not going to go into all of it and ruin the fucking show because that's most of the first episode. It's a synopsis for you, but she is really accepting of him. And then there are moments in the show where you think she's going to do a typical anime girl, like bland personality written by a man thing, and she doesn't. And he doesn't react in a shit anime dude way either. And like, it's fucking great. Like, it's just good writing. And I was like, there's growth of character in this. There's like traumatic, sad moments you can relate to. And then other moments where no one's in the wrong, but bad shit's happening to people. And the characters are just caught up in the to and fro of life. And there's anxiety building. And like, there's a bit where he's like tired trying to hit this deadline for her. And she doesn't realize that she's putting all this pressure on him. And then, it sort of comes out in the wash. And instead of being like, well, fuck, you're an idiot or whatever, she's like, I am so sorry. Like, oh my God, I didn't know I was doing this to you. And she just feels tragically horrible. And it's just beautiful. And then, but in saying that, it's sexy as fuck. She's cosplaying all these ridiculously sexy characters. There's a lot of upskirt shots. He has to measure her and they make a big joke out of it.
He has the hots for high school children.
I really don't. But they play on it so much. But it's also funny and it has a point. And she makes a point of saying, like, kind of constantly, like, it's not even that she says it, it's that the way she behaves is like how I've known cosplayers to behave. They're doing it or dressing because they want to just look like that character, and they're not even thinking, this is super hot, I want to do this in a sexual scenario in my life, or I want to look sexy there, I want to look like this character. Yeah. And that's all it is. Like, when she's like getting him to measure him, she's like, can you just chill out? And he's like, like, they do it well. It's good. Watch it. The only part I will say, it is very funny because at the end of the first episode, when she's like got him to say, yes, I will make these for you. She's like, I want to do this character, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, cool, what are they from? And she says, oh, it's from like Slippery Girls too. And he's like, well, I haven't heard of that anime. And she's like, oh no, it's an eroge. And then the show just ends. So I've described them on the show. I'm not going to do it again. You guys kind of know it's like a sexy game anime type thing. But like the premise is like it's like game porn.
Yeah.
But she still wants to dress as a character from it because she just appreciates that it's like this Lolita type dress. And it's pretty. And she thinks that the girl is cute. Cool. Good show. But despite the sexy elements, like, I just felt for the characters. The writing was good, and I almost cried in bits, and I was smiling and laughing in other bits.
So what was the name of it, and where can you find it?
My Dress Up Darling. It is on Crunchyroll for stream. I imagine you can find it on other things. It is worth watching, and it's only 12 episodes. So even if you're not like a slice of life guy like me, you do hear that about the level of popularity it's getting. It's also quite beautifully animated. A little generic, but it's still beautiful. Which makes it very tolerable. A lot of the backgrounds and stuff are not on the same level, but clearly inspired similarly from like Your Name and Weathering With You. Like, there are bits that look like watercolor and shit. So definitely worth a watch. But that's my sexy anime. So apparently we're all just the fucking worst.
Old horn dogs.
Look, we got 2 not necessarily recommended and 1 that is. So I mean, that's not a bad hit rate.
You know what's kind of funny though? Like, when you're describing that, I was thinking that like there are a lot of parallels between that and Toradora as far as storyline goes.
Yes, that's what made me go that way.
2 somewhat broken characters coming together in an unlikely scenario, no magic or anything like that, and just silly but real life things happen. And so I'm keen to give it a crack because
as soon as I started watching it, I was like, Jace it's going to be on his new favorites list.
I think you actually DM'd me when you started watching it. You're like, just put this on your list, and I was like, okay, it's on the list.
Nice.
So,
nice
for sure. Is there anything besides sexy ass anime you guys want to chat about tonight? Because half the audience is fucked off. All 3 of these dudes who aren't subbed are still hanging around.
I don't know.
Dude still hasn't put his pants on.
I've already got a thumbnail idea. We'll just have me as a sexy anime girl, all like, oh.
That's how I want to make every thumbnail from now on.
But then, like, give me big cans that make that blong noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a noise for a thumbnail.
Yeah.
Oh,
just like how you have to put subtitles on our fucking
in the
Spotify.
comic from the like camp Batman where it's like boom, like bam.
Perfect.
Nice.
Just that next to Jace's giant cans.
So we did have another topic to talk about, but I have no idea how long we've been talking at the moment. Did we need to take a break?
Well, I want that sponsor's money, so we should probably air their shit.
All right. But like, I really don't like this ad, so like, whatever.
Yeah.
Are you sick of gourmet meals? Do you crave burnt toast when you're done cooking for 3 hours? Buy today the Toast Processor Black Edition, which will turn all your gourmet meals into burnt toast. And for those of you that like real big and real black, get the bigger blacker limited edition today.
All right. Now that we've all got the sexiness out of our systems for now, however many subscribers are left, knowing that the rest of this episode isn't going to be all that sexy, we're just going to put a blur on faces. No, I'm just going to blur your entire box for the rest of the episode.
Try and blur this box.
Just move really fast.
What else are we going to talk about apart from 2D anime titties?
Okay.
What else we got?
So
anime booty. There we go.
I do have a nice booty.
And a
No,
booty.
that's a lie. I got a terrible ass. It's like a fucking
And a booty. Yes.
It's either animals or anime.
no. I'm out. Anyway.
Oh, you
so-
can get both. Have you seen Beastars?
Nope.
Oh
We're out.
God, no, not
I'm
doing this.
muting Brady. All right, I'm leaving. But people who know me know that I am a whore for one particular Netflix exclusive series. That would be Stranger Things.
It should be Castlevania, but it's Stranger Things.
Shut up, idiot. And anyway, ever since season 3 dropped, I've been dying for my fix. My veins are dry. And it got delayed by nearly 2 years because of COVID. But finally, we're getting
situation we don't
Worst
mention
thing
usually.
Worst thing that
no.
came out of that.
Yeah. I don't care about anything else to do with COVID except they delayed my shows.
Yep. Stranger Things.
So
travel. Where's my show?
I don't leave the house anyway. Like,
Travel to another world through
yeah,
isekai.
exactly. Just tell Hawkins, Indiana. And yeah, so new trailer dropped, right, for season 4.
Yes.
So there was a little teaser a while ago that basically just showed Hopper in Russia or Siberia, I think. And that was like it. This shows a hell of a lot more. And then they also dropped some little nuggets of information.
Yep.
And
Enough
so
to sort of piece it together somewhat, or at least
we
try
know
to.
one thing that's kind of big is that the Mind Flayer is no longer the primary enemy. So for season 2 and 3, the Mind Flayer was the big bad evil guy. We've got a new one. Justin has some thoughts on this bloke.
Correct. And I'm pretty certain this has already been already confirmed from the makers. So the big bad, who potentially could have been the big bad from the very start, is actually a lich from the D&D actual world of D&D. And this guy...
No, I have seen articles on that. They did confirm.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain it was confirmed, unless those articles are just bullshit.
It's very true.
This guy, his name is Vecna. He's a lich, and he has begun his time all the way back in the first edition of D&D and built his way up from first edition all the way to 5th. So he's always been a part of it.
Character.
Yeah, somewhat. And initially there was very little mention of him at all. It was just Vecna, and there was 2 components that you could find in one of the campaigns way back in first edition, and it was an eye and a hand of Vecna, but with no explanation at all. They were just items that you could pick up. And even Gary Gygax back then was just like, I don't know, Didn't mention it much. Not sure exactly. They built from that and started to build this Lich up from there. And by the end of the 5th edition, where he's come in, he's now part of Critical Role's first campaign as a big bad there. He's like a demigod by the end of it all. So he's really being built up. So from nothing to
sorry, I know that we have a topic here we're sort of doing, and I'm not going to derail it too bad, but I think we've just mentioned someone we haven't mentioned. When it comes to the D&D world, it has kind of recurring elements, like so because we create our own campaign. Most people watching this familiar with D&D are familiar with our campaign, Dungeons and Discourse, and of course our one-shot Christmas special you've seen.
Everyone's seen it.
But it's not just that. So the guidebooks come out and stuff, and they have kind of an existing world. Like D&D is set in a created universe that's shared amongst all the players to do whatever they want in, but there is places, there's people, there's
actual campaigns as well. So like Justin writes our campaign, but he could literally just pull it out of a book.
100%.
That's
what I mean.
There's a world with a bunch of actual lore. So, even outside of the campaign, the whole world? No, I don't think so.
No,
they're just multiverse.
Because I know there's like continents and towns and villages and shit, but I wasn't sure.
We were actually in D&D.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, you guys are actually in a canon part of the area. I mean, I've made the town a little bit different to what it originally should have been, but
it doesn't usually have soy farmers and fucking.
It does. It does.
Giant toads living in the swamp. I mean, probably, but
idiot elves swinging large swords they can barely hold.
No,
connoisseurs in a very Hobbit style form. No. I'm not sure exactly, but I don't do enough research into those sort of things to really understand it. But I know that there is a shit load of lore for D&D that is actually canon, and they take them out of books and they take them out of all the campaigns and all of that sort of thing. They mesh it all together and they make it real. This Lich has just been mentioned throughout all of the editions from there on. So someone picked up on that and went, "Hey, that's pretty cool." They started building this guy up, and by the end of it, he became this demigod. So like throughout that, he's actually had little side campaigns and stuff, like for Vecna and like fighting Vecna, defeating Vecna and stuff like that. And then he comes back, of course. It's pretty cool how he's done it. But that also made his name an anagram of a person who did some original work. So what was his name? Jack Vance. So he was one of the original writers for like fantasy back then, before first edition, and they took some of his ideas to actually use to make the magical elements of D&D work. So
can we get
it's kind of like an Easter egg.
Yeah, in one of your adventures guides, can you do like a history of D&D?
Oh god,
like
I think it's probably more than one.
You can break it down into like multiple episodes, but like I'm just I'm too lazy to go do it myself.
Yeah, this has actually been kind of informative. Like,
it's pretty deep.
I'd like to know.
And well, I had no idea about Vecna, to be honest. I just heard the name and I was like, I think this is something, and started looking into it. And at the same time, then I started seeing all the news popping up about like confirms this is a character out of D&D, and I was like, right, okay. That's when I started doing some.
So it's not just a Lich. You like the prevailing theory is this. It is Lich is like a creature, right? Like, but this is we think
it's usually it's a wizard that's turned into a Lich after some sort of an event. So yeah, he just got real dark.
In case people here are like gaming or anime with no idea what that is.
It's basically an undead abomination. Basically an undead
that's why I thought that was kind of like
necromancer type thing.
Sort of almost vampiric in that they needed to.
Somewhat, yes. Yeah, somewhat vampiric or necromancery sort of. So I'd say he's going to be a bit of a leader of an army of sorts. He does have a right-hand man, which I reckon if we keep an eye out inside of Stranger Things, there might be a guy with a name close to Kaz, K-A-S, or Kaz, something like that. It might be a variation on that, but I reckon there'll probably be that guy. And if there is, he's going to be doing some shit.
So I'm a bit curious. So the Duffer Brothers have said that this is Vecna. Like they haven't just said this is a Lich. They've said by name.
So that is confirmed.
Yeah. Now, the part that I am curious about though is they always seem to run in parallel with D&D, but they never cross over. So the Upside Down is, as they've said in the show, it's the Veil of Shadows. The Demogorgon is just a name for that creature. It doesn't actually look like what a Demogorgon in D&D is supposed to look like by artists and such. The Mind Flayer is just a description based on what he does.
Yeah.
I wonder if Vecna is going to be the same thing. Like, is he a lich? But the
picture I've seen of Vecna so far does not look anything like the very quick half-second flash you see of Vecna in the trailer, if that is in fact Vecna. Like, it does not look a thing like it. So
that's the thing that I'm curious about. Is it, again, the kids being like, well, this is a lich, and I severely doubt they're going to sit there and have a conversation, be like, oh, can you let us know your name, and can you spell that out for me?
Yeah.
So I have a strange feeling that the kids are just going to choose that name because of D&D influence, whereas yes, he is actually a lich and whatnot, but it's not the Vecna, but they've named it Vecna after that.
Yeah, maybe.
That's kind of the vibe.
Yeah,
that
so
I'm
I know what you
getting
mean. I know what you're saying. Like, they're not going to look him up and be like, this sounds like Vecna from this book. Is this Vecna? And then it's like actually Vecna, because that would kind of break the wall as well. Like, that would be a bit weird.
That's breaking their own fourth wall.
Yes,
they've been fucking riding real close.
Yeah. But like, at the moment, the kids are just rationalizing what they're seeing with what they know of D&D, and that works really well for the show. So yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think they'll be like, this guy is Vecna, but for all intents and purposes, I guess it is.
So exactly. It's what they'll like nickname this creature, who probably doesn't have a name from a Stranger's Thing point of view.
Yeah, probably not. But I am super fucking hype, and I do have one final thought on Stranger Things season 4. Kind of hope it's the last season.
Oh, you reckon?
Starting to feel a bit drawn out.
I don't want them to drag it out too much. And I see this happen with shows that I love a lot.
Yeah.
And because this is based on kids' teens as well, like, there's a line that if you keep going, I'd rather see you come back in multiple years and be like, more shit started happening to them in college, and use the same actors, rather than
that could work.
Try and draw it out pretending it's only been a year when like they're all fucking pimple faced.
Have you seen them now though? Like in the trailer,
it's bizarre.
Finn Wolfhard's like 18 feet tall. It's like, I don't know how that makes him look tall, but
I like the sound effect means tall as well.
That's what tall people do,
is they walk around
because you can hear
like,
the air.
I don't know what it's like.
Real breezy up there. It's real breezy up here.
The air is dense and full of farts at the height that I walk.
It just always sounds like the mountain area of a game to them as they walk around.
The other thing is how old does them trying to go back to normality, feel after every season? They're all like, oh, we can go back to normal now. We've defeated all evil. And it's like, how stupid are you when this happens every time?
And like it totally made sense in the first season.
Yeah.
It made sense when they brought it back in the second and third. But especially if they had have brought the Mind Flayer back again, I would have been like, nah, don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm
glad they brought in another big bad, but like, it just feels like you'd just be on fucking edge. Like, it's like that guy who got struck by lightning like 13 times. You wouldn't fucking leave your house. You'd be like,
plot twist, he gets
my God.
Toaster jumps in the bath with him.
Oh, well, sadly, he actually did take his life.
Fuck, man. I don't feel good about that joke now.
Very dark.
Big fucking
very dark. Yeah, well, he just got struck way too much. Like, he was convinced that some higher power was after him. Like, at that point, surely.
You fucking would, yeah.
Right?
I mean, in fairness, that's too many times. Like, 3.
That's way too many fucking times.
All right, what wants me dead? Like,
one is too many times.
That's even rare.
2, I'm thinking, fuck, something's out for me.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how these kids should feel, though, right? Like, they're in one town in the middle of a whole world.
Yeah, but
and it just keeps happening to them in that one
rationale,
town.
every movie that has a supernatural element happened to some people. You could say that, but
but like if they made the same, like it's even
but if they made the same movie 7 times, then
it's like Aliens, right? So the Alien series, we've got the original Alien. You know, coincidental, they run across LV 426, blah blah blah. Alien happens. Second movie, they find Ellen Ripley. They're like, okay, we've found you. We've lost contact with the colony. Can you go with the guys to go check out the colony? That checks out. Aliens 3, she's in some like prison colony because there's some, I can't even remember why she was there.
But I don't remember it at all.
And then the fourth Aliens movie, they also brought her, I think they cloned her and brought her back to life for that. And it's like
too much.
Like,
yeah. And I just hope, I hope Stranger Things doesn't go there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think they just find
the kids back into teenagers again, and we're just going to use deep fakes, like
just time travel.
We need to draw this show out. No one wants to see them.
Spin-off series. It'll just be all Hopper, and then a spin-off
it's just
series
all their
of that.
kids.
Honestly, I could see that happening. I don't know what's going on with Hopper as well. Like thinking about where he's at and what's going on. Do you think maybe possibly Hopper could end up being like a big bad? Like, could he be the bad guy?
Why would he be the bad guy?
I don't know, man.
Okay, so
plot twist.
If you focus on the end of season 3, right? After he kills, I forget the name of the guy, but the big tall Russian dude, and they had to blow up the machine. You can see a glimpse of him jumping over the railing.
Yeah.
There's still Russian guys everywhere there. The end of that shows him in a gulag in Siberia. So he's been arrested, and they make a reference of bringing the American, and they drag some other dude in and he gets mauled by a Demogorgon. But like, so he's very clearly been incarcerated by the Russians. So I don't think he's in cahoots. I just think wrong place, wrong time.
I don't know. He might be incarcerated by the Russians, and then he confronts a Demogorgon like you see in the trailer. But maybe he he's been touched by the darkness, and maybe he fucking is Vecna. I don't know. Just putting it out there.
This is the guy who's writing our character's story.
It could be whack. And then, it just goes quiet. He just has this quiet talk to the Demogorgon, and the Demogorgon turns on everyone and kills everyone, and he walks out of there a free man. That would
awful.
Be badass. That would be
badass,
sick.
But that sounds awful.
Motherfucker, dude.
Well, anyway,
you have to kill their.
Speaking
of
dark shit, playing like Elden Ring. And I don't want to talk about Elden Ring too much. Everyone's fucking over us talking about it.
No, we're not.
Elden Ring only.
I went back into our group chat because I silenced it the other night because it was going on way too late and I wanted some sleep. I went back into it because I put on no notifications for 24 hours. I went back into that group chat and it was like 300 unread messages.
Good.
Coward.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is just to talk about the idea that people have such different experiences, right?
Yeah.
So like all three of us have wildly different experiences with that particular game. And we mentioned it briefly on another episode, but I'll just quickly go over each of ours and then we can talk about our experiences with games in general. But mine with it has been, I learned nothing. I am consistently confused. I have no idea what the story is, but I have progressed at a reasonable rate. I was the last one of us to get it, and I could beat it at any moment now, the main line, but I'm just having fun
got about
exploring
4 bosses, I think.
Yeah, but I just am having fun exploring because it's cool. It's but I have no idea who anything is, what's going on. Usually I have to hit these guys up in the group chat and be like, where the fuck am I supposed to go? I really don't know. I don't know what characters are talking about. I still don't know what a tarnished is. I don't know the reason of the world or what an Elden Ring is or an Elden Lord. And I am going to become one from what I can tell. But that's been my experience, but I'm still smashing through quite well as far as I can tell. Yeah, it's bizarre. That's my experience. Whereas Jace is all plot.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, he's like, fuck, story. Oh, so good.
So it's
So
weird
deep.
though. At first, I didn't really care. I was a little intrigued by things here and there. I thought the opening cinematic was stupid, and I think I mentioned this before. But when you watch it for the first time, you're like, they just got random nouns and they just threw that in sentences.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
After finishing the game, so I finished the game once. I've got a new game plus and a separate character. I've got like 160 hours in the game now. And yeah, like once I got to the point of trying to do Rani's quest, and I was only doing it to fight Estelle, who is like a fucking cool looking boss. But there's a moment where you've got to speak to her little doll. When she started talking about who she is and why she is, I was like, this is fucking amazing. And then I just got this massive lore boner, not simping for Rani, guy in the back. But yeah, and then I got fucking deep in the source. Whereas from what I hear, Justin just gave up.
Man, I got nothing. I didn't even know who Rani was. I thought she might have been a boss. And then you guys told me that she's the one that gives you your fucking horse at the start. I was like, oh, okay. That's who that is. Okay. The person I've seen literally once, and I don't know even where to find her at this point.
She is also mentioned in the fight against Renala in Raya Lucaria. Like
she's
the
a pain
wizard
in the
bitch.
ass.
Right.
She's just mentioned at the end of that fight.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, and you see her walk in as it happens to be the second phase. But yeah.
It was so early on, I didn't pay much attention to that name. So I just lost her. So don't know where she is, don't know when she comes back. The chick that you see every now and then at the fireplace, I've seen her like 3 times total.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And I know that they're sisters, but I only know that because you told me. That's it.
I don't think they're sisters, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I am just lost as shit.
Yeah.
I got all the way up to the snow area, and the friggin' fire giant absolutely annihilates me. I've only got a +8 weapon. It's not the right weapon. I've only got like a +6 staff. I am screwed at this point. So I need to go way back and start digging again, even though I spent probably the first 60 hours of the game wiping out like a large portion of map. And I paid as much attention as I could to any character that I ever spoke to, which wasn't many. And I just have nothing. Like there's nothing there. I cannot find a person to talk to. I can't find any story to pick up from anywhere. So that's not how I would normally play a RPG, which is kind of how we got onto this topic.
Somewhat similar. I just got a bit more determined than you, I think.
Yeah, I think you just managed to get the right spots to get your stuff leveled up, I suppose, as well, because I
just kept pushing on, and I kind of knew what I wanted to be able to do. So that kind of guided where I would go a little bit more. Whereas you really wanted to just explore the mechanics. Like that was your big thing with Elden Ring. Like you loved the magic of it. Whereas I was like, I'm gonna bleed everything with dual wielding. That's what I want to do with this game. So that kind of guided where I would go for weapons and stuff, which is partially why I missed so much shit and had to go back. I didn't even know there was a deep underground thing. And once, apparently, I just straight up walked past a doorway I should have gone in. Like, it's just wild. There's a character Jace was talking about who tells you everything about the game, and I never saw him, and apparently I've destroyed my chance to.
Yeah, you'll meet him later. But
like, yeah.
I think part of this though stems from we're so used to Western RPGs and definitely not FromSoft games.
Yeah, true.
So
yeah.
I definitely must admit that having no hand holding makes it really awkward, and most of the like quests I have had to just Google how to do the quest.
But to move it away from Elden Ring, and just because of what you said,
well, that's what I was doing, but you know,
yeah, that's okay. I'm going to steal it from you. No, but because you specifically said we're used to Western ones, and we are, but also like, I mean, we've played Final Fantasy, you and I.
Yeah, but that's a JRPG. I'm more talking like traditional or action RPGs rather than JRPGs, because JRPGs
it's a different. That's true. But like, I don't know. I've played games that didn't hold your hand, and it didn't feel like this. But I want to talk more about like different experiences in games.
Well, yeah. So like a game that we haven't hit our quota on, Skyrim. Everyone has their own play on it, right?
Yeah.
Me personally, I've never like when I first start those games, I have a bad habit of better pick up all the cutlery. And then I remember that everything is worth nothing, and I've just over encumbered myself for a threepence. But as far as how the style of game works, when it comes to most RPGs, I don't tend to do a whole lot of side quests unless I find them real fucking engaging.
Right. So you're all story and main quest.
Yeah, except in Elder Scrolls.
Oh, Elder Scrolls.
There's too many elders now. It's
Yep.
getting confusing. I don't have enough brain cells for this. But like in Elder Scrolls games, I couldn't care less because their main storylines usually suck ass. Whereas stuff like the Dark Brotherhood, super interesting. Way more interested in that.
That's fair.
And so I follow that sort of stuff. But typical RPGs, I usually follow the main quest a lot more because a lot of the side missions are usually just filler crap.
The side missions, they're either for like one piece of weaponry that probably isn't that good, or it's for like just to make one character like you a little more.
Yeah.
A lot of that going on.
And like, so I don't know, how are you guys with that? Like, do you go side quests mostly? Do you like, because one thing that shits me right off, and pretty much every RPG I love does this, is, you know, how you can track quests in normal fucking RPGs, looking at you, FromSoft. Just having this full fucking list of quests that are like, you know, find Jimmy his parents and shit. I don't care. Jimmy, he can get fucked.
I am 100% opposite to you. I am a completionist, and I will happily wipe an area, which is why I spent so much time in Limgrave, in Elden Ring, and like the Raya Lucaria Academy. I could do with my eyes closed, I reckon, because those two things were like near the beginning for me, and I wiped them hard. And it's the same with Elder Scrolls, especially Skyrim. Just started in one area and just start doing a sweep, and just do a hard sweep and find every cave and find every side quest you can and just line everything up, and then just start doing them all. Like pick every quest up, accept everything. Yep.
Nah.
That's me.
That's so for me, it comes down to investment in the character, because if I want to, which is why I don't do it with Skyrim. With Skyrim, I like exploring, and if I pick something up that seems engaging, I'll go do it. But I don't, because Skyrim, like, you don't have a character to develop. It's not that style of RPG. But like, if it's a game, I don't have a good reference for this off the top of my head, but if it's a game where you can, it's like more like Infamous, where you can become more good or bad, or if it's a game where like, even a Sonic game where I just want to enjoy playing as him and doing more shit. Like, it depends how invested in the character or the world I am.
I can
to whether I do all that stuff. Yeah, so
like I'm bad for that in Mass Effect. Like we've spoken about my love for that series, but like at the moment I'm going through an insanity run, so the absolute hardest difficulty, and also just to be able to survive it, I'm doing pretty much every fucking mission in the game.
Yeah,
because I need dem XPs. But
so
I tend to do it a bit in those games because investment in the character.
Yeah, it
and
makes
the world.
sense. So really, it's how much you love the game and how much you've invested into it, and as to how much you really do in the game.
Yeah, so I think what we have here is Jace needs plot. Justin needs dopamine from just ticking shit off a list. And I need to feel emotional connection to the world or the person. Like, that's our kind of breakdown.
That could explain a lot. Like
a lot.
Well, Justin bailed first in Elden Ring because there are literally no lists.
Yes.
Yeah, you
and
can't
also,
tick anything off.
The thing that really annoys me is that I know I need to finish it multiple times to be able to do everything. You know, like you can do things and multiple you can only get a certain ending because you've done this. or if you don't do this, or if you kill this person, you get this ending. That does my head in so hard.
So there is a little thing about that. So there are certain bits, like apparently if you work towards that frenzied flame ending, it's pretty hard to reverse that unless you do a whole other fucking mission. But pretty much every other ending, it's like you just pick your ending. It's like, who do you follow? I follow this one.
Right. Okay.
So
okay.
It's not, it doesn't lock you in. It's a bit more like the end of Mass Effect 3, where they sort of just give you a choice. There are variants in it, but yeah.
Fable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fable 1, keep the sword or throw the sword.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I threw the sword,
Still waiting on that. I did 2 playthroughs. Because I love the shit out of Fable. I'm still waiting on a Fable 1 remake, man. Like a good one.
They did a remaster a while ago.
It was shit.
It was shit.
No, I want like a proper ground up, like that game was just good.
Yeah.
What about other games aside from RPGs? So what about I don't know, like car games?
I was gonna say, what's another game you can? Yeah, I was like,
you guys even play car
Sonic
games? Because like I've played Forza. Yeah.
I did get invested in like I think Most Wanted, like Need for Speed, and then I tried Pro Street, and I did want to do good at that. The V8 Supercars game on Xbox.
Dude, that was classic.
You don't actually start as you start in these like shitbox things, I think, and like it's a full like. But what I hated, there's like it's the fucking Grand Prix race, and like you have to do it, it's like 80 laps.
Yeah,
and I was like, my eyes were burning, and if you slightly fuck up, like it's like an hour and a half of this same track. You have to plan your pit stops. You got to do everything because stuff's wearing out. Like, you have to be a hardcore car person to like that. But at that point, I was invested, and I've never been much of a completionist. But this is like 85% through. I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it. Like, I think that's my closest relation point.
I'm a pretty big car game guy. I don't know if you guys know this, but like I've played pretty much every Need for Speed game that's ever been made.
Yeah.
And if I find them any good, because there have been many questionable ones of late, I will finish them. But yeah, I love car games, but I follow the story pretty closely, unless it's like, so if there's a story or something like that, then I'll follow the story. But like in games like Gran Turismo or Forza, I'm hard on I want to get my car and I want to make that thing as fast as I fucking can. And I'm just going to jet around tracks and just finish the game by doing that.
Right. So you just stick to one car. You don't go for like, I need all the cars.
No. So if anything, I will be like, okay, so this will be my, off-road car, and this will be my, track car. And then this will be my, blah, blah, blah. And I'll have one car for every scenario. And I tend to do that with all the car games.
Makes sense. Yeah.
What's another type of game? I can't think of another.
So GTA type games. Like
like open world, just whatever. Yeah.
Do you guys do much of the side missions? Because like there's a lot of questionable side missions out there, especially in like the GTA 3D series, or if you're talking like Saints Row, there's a lot of really sketchy side missions. Do you guys
I do them all. I do everything. If it's an open world game of any kind, then I would usually try and finish it 100%.
Yeah, so if I'm really invested in the game, like GTA 3, I have finished every single mission a bajillion times.
Yeah.
Same thing with Vice City and San Andreas, but I do know that there are some dog shit missions in all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those in like Saints Row games as well. But typically, if I'm having a lot of fun and I want to draw it out, I will. I'm sort of also like, sometimes I do get in a groove though, and I'm just like, I just want to finish. And I got like that about halfway into Red Dead Redemption 2, because number one never came out on PC. I sort of got to this point where I was about halfway in the game and I'm just like, I just need to keep playing the story because I'm so fucking sick of just doing random side missions. I don't care that some photographer wants to take a photo of my horse's scrotum.
That was a real reach.
One dick joke per episode quota.
Nope. I've already made several dick jokes.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
That I had a real issue with Red Dead and just not being out. I didn't finish it because it was just too big and just too boring. You know, like
so many people are like, this is the ultimate experience in gaming, and it's so realistic that your horse's nutsack actually gets smaller in the snow.
Yeah.
Yes, congrats, they did that. But
that's
like,
awesome.
have you played Red Dead 2, Brady?
No, I had no
so
fucking interest.
Big,
to be
man.
honest.
It's so big, and you're just
like,
riding
I
on
looked
a
at
horse.
it and I watched gameplay and stuff, and it looked cool.
It's beautiful. It's great.
But I had no fucking interest in that game. Like the Old West theme, like I was like, that's cool. But I would find that cool for like 30 hours, and then I'm done with this.
Yeah, let me just double check because I basically did just hard on the main story. How long did it fucking take me to get through that game? Because one of the things that really annoyed the hell out of me was you get to the climax of the story, and then they're like, oh, wait. We've got a whole nother story at the end of it. And it goes
sounds
on.
like a filler arc.
It pretty much fucking is.
That sounds like a filler arc.
Because it becomes a prequel to the original.
Right. Okay. Sounds like a bit of a stretch, but yeah.
Yeah.
I never got to that point
2,
then, by the sounds of it.
It took me just under 60 hours to finish.
Yeah, no. Yeah. See, Old West theme, like, I mean, this just comes down to personal preference. And again, I'm not going to say it's a shit game for that point because it's just not the game for me. I'm like, your fantasy dude and JRPGs and that sort of shit. It was never going to work that well for me. I would invest in it being a pretty game, like beautifully done, for 30 hours, and then beyond that I'm like, no. And I knew just from everything I'd heard, you're not going to be able to finish that game in that time. So I'm not giving it, I'm not watching something I'm not enjoying for that long.
There's just not enough in between areas and things that you need to get to make it interesting. There's just a lot of open, beautiful
simulator
environment.
Can go fuck itself.
Yeah, exactly right. That's exactly it.
And I have one more type of game at least that I got to bring up and ask you guys about. Ubisoft games. Now I say Ubisoft because as time has gone on, a lot of their games have just smooshed into one. And that's basically Far Cry and Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I was going to say Assassin's Creed.
Thing.
Yeah.
Where they drop you in a world and they're like, oh.
But you just do the same thing again and again and again and again with a slightly different tree in a slightly different spot.
Yeah, you end up with this map with, here's 7 trillion collectibles. What do you get at the end? Oh, a hat. And just shit like that. And they just fill your map with so much shit to do. But it is all boring filler crap.
It's
usually always fetch quests.
And this comes back to my love of these things. It only works if you have an emotional investment and something is going to happen in each of those, or you just love the world and you want to be in it. But they make that kind of impossible in Ubisoft games, like, because Far Cry is like has its own plot line, but Assassin's Creed, like, you aren't your character. It's not a custom character. Like, you are playing a plot line. Like, it's hard to get super invested in that because you aren't making decisions really. It's all leading to the same ending.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
so you can't do that. It's just fetch quest, get to the end of this. You get sometimes you don't even get a fucking item. You just get the game achievement, and you're like, awesome. Brag rights for the 1 billion people on the internet who did it before me because I don't have all day to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I find worst about it. Because, like, I like to bitch and moan about the Batman Arkham games, even though they are not Ubi, they are Rocksteady. I understand that. But the Riddler trophies...
Same concept, though.
Fuck me, the Riddler trophies annoyed the shit out of me. Because there is so much... Oh, you've pretty much finished the game. Now you have all the things you need to go back and figure out these puzzles. No, I don't want to fucking do that. But I can understand why people do, because when you get them all, there is actually a tangible result.
Yeah.
Whereas if you pick up a bunch of like fucking artifacts for the Animus, that doesn't suddenly
Nothing
make
happens.
Don't mean
Literally
shit.
nothing.
Yeah.
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 And so
I did the Riddler things. I don't remember what the end result was, though. It was too
it's
long
basically you get like a cutscene thing where he doesn't murder a bunch of civilians. If I remember correctly.
Okay. Yeah. I could not remember. I know I've done it. I definitely went back and did it.
It's nothing super amazing, but it's just like a little cutscene type thing.
The only thing that I liked about that, though, that was different than your other ones in the world, the Far Cries and all the rest of it, was each of the Riddlers was different. So each of those puzzles was a puzzle, and some of them were difficult and some of them were not, but each of them were different. They were unique. So there was like 100 or so of them, maybe even more, and they were each different. So that takes some time and effort, which I think is much better than the wash, rinse, repeat of like Assassin's Creed world, where it's climb this tower so you can see some shit. Okay, now there's 15,000 things to do in this area. Now go over there and climb that tower.
But they're all the same as the last area.
All right, now you've got all these unique things to do, and it's all the same shit. So
yeah, I really feel like Ubisoft, when they make their games, they're like, all right, we've made this big, rich open world. How do we pad it out? And instead of actually making like
they need a bunch of DMs working for them. They need
people
to like
they need
create
stuff with like
plots for the characters.
You know what? They kind of got lazy in that
world.
respect though, because they did that. They opened it up so you could make your own side quests. So in the newer Assassin's Creeds, you can just pick up other side quests that are like a daily thing, but that are made by players.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, but they're not.
So like they just got lazy and just went, oh, you know what? You guys can do it yourselves.
100%.
It's just because if you love that world that much or you like it that much, you can do that. But
I've played a couple of those that are surprisingly more deep than a lot of the stuff from Assassin's Creed. I was like, wow, some kids put a lot of effort into this. Yeah, and then you see another one that's like, kiss me. Like, oh, this is
like
weird.
After the first 5 times in like Valhalla that I killed something in a cool way, I was like, cool, I've seen that now. Like I don't want to live in that world that much. Like there were a few things I was like, oh, I want to get the fucking this animal that kills this in a sick way. And then I did it like 3 times after I got it and was like, all right, that's it. Yeah. Like I'll go kill this god now. And then
the thing that annoys me about Valhalla is like you're basically a British person like rocking Valhalla, but like trying to be like not a Viking, but you're meant to be a Viking. So you kind of like
that's all the games.
You know, but like this is meant to be Vikings, and yet the only raiding you do is inside of your camp when you go and do these side things. But everything else is just like diplomacy and working with the Assassins Guild and stuff. You're meant to be a Viking. So you are supposed to kill the shit out of everything.
Yeah. But you got to remember what age this is, and you do go raiding fucking monasteries. That is like largely what they were doing.
Yeah, it's just not satisfying.
So I haven't played Valhalla. But I must say that like they did pretty well with like 3 and 4 as far as focusing on who the character is supposed to be. Like Connor in 3 is a Native American, and he just happens to stumble upon the assassins, blah, blah, blah. I won't spoil it. I've done enough spoiling of late.
The spoiler.
Yeah. And yeah, so he sort of keeps his very Native American roots and doing what he needed to do at a personal level. And the same thing for Black Flag with was Edward Kenway?
Yeah, no, okay, Kenway, so here's the difference. They changed the rules in the prequel series, basically. Odyssey, Origins and Valhalla, because you don't have to link to someone whose DNA you had. They like broke the rule, so that's where
they're basically just going back to times in history now.
Yeah. So. And like I played
figures that have information they need, but they aren't related to them. So it has. I get
honestly,
where Justin's coming
from.
Do
any of you actually remember anything to do with the story they're trying to chase? Because I don't fucking know where.
Not
that's
Origins,
at.
Valhalla I do because it has a major link to what's going to happen from here on. Like it's
like the future ones, like the
present
day bullshit.
So I did up until they killed off Desmond.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because spoilers. But
if you wanted to play Assassin's Creed 1 now, don't bother. He dies.
I think he dies in like the 3rd or 4th or whatever.
Yeah, it was late. Yeah.
But like,
but don't get invested in him.
They started building up a story in the real time that was leading to this new treasure. And they're like, no, we'll kill off that guy. And then we'll just have some dude walk around an office. And it was like
bizarre. Yeah.
It just became really shit. And
now no one cares. So they've probably just given up on that entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of things that should probably just end and not like drag themselves out too hard.
Yeah.
This episode?